Thank you for the opportunity to talk today on the work that we've been doing as a student-staff partnership, transforming histology education. So I work within the life sciences field, and histology is whereby we look at the structure of tissues and organs under a microscope. Now, this is pretty fundamental to biomedical and healthcare degrees, but it can be quite difficult to learn and teach. It can have a lot of new terminology. You need to think about the tissue in 3D orientation, and that can make it quite complex. Now, adding that on top of the limited hands-on time we have with students can make it quite difficult for students to learn. Here at Glasgow, we teach histology often in a lab with microscopes. And of course, that's great for some interactive learning, but two people can't look down the microscope at the same time. So often it results in the staff trying to support the students, but while not being able to both look at the same vision at the same time. And as well as that, students obviously don't have a microscope at home, so when they leave the lab, it can be difficult for them to continue their learning in an interactive way, and instead they then have to rely on more static images. So the aim of this project was really to re-look at how we teach histology and redesign the resources that we use in order to make them more engagement. We wanted to work in a student-staff partnership in order to really get the viewpoint from the students and allow them to really drive the approach. And the approach that we looked to take was around the concept of gamification and flipped classroom, while using a free virtual microscope environment software called OMERO. So this partnership was very gratefully funded by the College of MVLS, and we appointed 2 interns to work for us for 6 weeks last summer. The remit of the project was for the students to develop and create new teaching resources for histology that were interactive, met the current course learning objectives, and helped to support removing some of the fear that our students have around this subject. Interns had a freedom of design and content based on their own learning experience. And this project was designed to link with the learning and teaching strategy, evolving towards more student-centred active learning and professional skills development while we transformed the curriculum.
Hello, my name is Laura, and I was one of the 2 student interns involved in the project. I'm also a 4th-year medical student. So I'm just going to briefly explain from my perspective how the partnership worked. So I had a freedom of input for design of the resources. We chose Moodle as a platform. It's been used in similar projects before. And also there's a student familiarity with the platform that enables ease of use. So I had choice over the design, structure, and the content of my Moodle lessons. However, this was very much informed by staff, including information on the sort of content useful for the curriculum. So staff provided suggestions and guidance for the depth of content we might need, and also gave us access to the ILOs of the curricula for which the resources would be used. The student-created Moodle resources were also regularly reviewed by staff, and we were given practical advice from a teaching standpoint that we might not otherwise have had access to. And this was done through weekly meetings, technical assistance, and specific queries that we had answered. Postgraduate staff also reviewed these resources to ensure that the content was appropriate for students.
Hi, my name is Lesley Hamilton, and as e-learning officer for life sciences, I don't often get the opportunity to work directly with students, as my role is mostly staff-facing. However, when I do get the chance to support students on projects like this one, we organise a meeting to get to know each other and determine the level and type of support needed throughout the project. So during our first meeting, we discussed the project requirements, subject knowledge, pedagogical aspects of online learning, and the students' self-assessment of their digital capabilities, especially since this may be their first time using digital creation tools for learning and teaching. However, within the first 5 minutes of our meeting, we were able to establish that the students were comfortable with the project's remit and already had the subject and pedagogical knowledge for teaching histology. So we were able to use the time to focus on Moodle. So we explored the editor role of staff, or teacher in Moodle terms, and how to add and edit resources and activities. We tended to focus on the Moodle resources and activities that were most likely to be used in creating self-paced learning resources. So as we covered these options, it became clear that a combination of Moodle Book and H5P would facilitate the creation of resources that are media rich and interactive. So creating content in Moodle Book provides a consistent structure for the resources, while embedding H5P content adds interactivity. So the advantage of Moodle Books and H5P meant that the content can be shared as a complete resource covering various topics. Additionally, the H5P content bank means we have a bank of digital assets that are reusable and can be edited to create bespoke learning materials.
So you can see here on this slide some of the examples of the resources that were created using OMERO, and again H5P embedded into Moodle, as Lesley was just talking about. We can see the use of H5P and Moodle along with OMERO in these resources on the screen here. And you might also like to follow the QR code to see how OMERO is used in practice. The resources we created, part of the advantage of those were that OMERO is freely available, and we can use this as a VME or virtual microscope environment. Team-based learning whilst in the lab with students easily allows them to share their screen with peers and staff, which is another advantage of its use. And this also allows students to continue learning after they leave the lab. So we did pilot the OMERO resources with L3 Anatomy BSc students, so that's 38 students, of which 29 responded. And you can see from the results, 77% of those students found the resource straightforward to use, 92% agreed it improved their confidence with histology, and 88% agreed that it improved their understanding of histology. And we've also got a quote from an Anatomy 3 BSc student in the corner of the slide.
So from our side, this project was hugely successful. The interns were able to develop really great innovative resources in order for us to be able to deliver this teaching in a different way. We have limited time as staff to be able to really engage with this process. So the students brought new ideas and a vision. And as Lesley said earlier, they really did create a bank of digital resources as a template. So now we could kind of pull out the histology content and use it to replace it with other content now that we have it there as a framework and template to use. The delivery of this teaching really helped to improve our teaching experience, which has resulted in happier, more engaged students in the lab, but also students able to engage with their learning in a more active way outside of the class too. And of course, one of the big benefits I got was working alongside Laura and Sophie, was really building that relationship with them, working closely with them and seeing them develop. And I'm actually continuing that relationship with Laura as we move forward with this project into the next phase.
So as Michelle said, there were excellent advantages for the student-staff partnership for both student and staff parties. From my point of view, this is an excellent opportunity to improve my histology knowledge, but also to work with staff who were really experts in the field. So it was absolutely fabulous for my learning. And it inspired a passion for education in the medical fields for myself. And it really helped me to learn about important academic processes, like, for instance, applying for ethics approval. This gave me transferable skills like navigating new software, applying my histology knowledge, designing resources, and working as part of a large team that I would not otherwise have had access to. And I really enjoyed building my relationships with staff and other students, and also contributing to the university curriculum and resource development, which I felt really enabled me to feel part of the university ethos. Here are our acknowledgements for the project. We'd like to thank Sophie, the other intern, in addition to Prof. Maureen Bain for funding this work. We'd also like to thank Dr. Sharon Snedden and Dr. Caroline Allen for their contributions to the project, in addition to the student cohorts for using the resources and giving us their feedback, which has been incredibly useful. Thank you very much.